Digital and AI literacy is right at the forefront of all of our minds. And today we're going to explore that a little bit further. I have joining me an author, Casper Pieters, who has developed a range of resources to help us explore this massive topic of digital and AI literacy with our children. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump straight in. Who is Casper Pieters? In under 3 minutes, if we can keep it to that, just give me a little bit of your background so that those watching can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay, I'm originally from Holland. I was born in Rotterdam and migrated to Australia in 1975 and lived most of my life, studied in Australia. First, I worked as a marine biologist. I was based in Townsville. And later in life, I became an educator. And that really came from the experience of, 20 years of film documentary making, where at the end of a documentary, we had this educational website that would really bring home the message that we covered on the documentaries. And I became interested in education. It became something really focused. So I did my degree in education and then taught for 10 years, did maths, science, and IT. And particularly with IT, I realized it wasn't exciting enough for the young people. It's a very interesting situation where young people in some ways were way ahead of us as teachers.
Mm.
And so, but there were things missing. And so I realized then, I wanted to find a method using the experience I had as filmmaker and become a storyteller and explain things through adventures and to capture their interest first and then deliver the critical information. And that's where my education thing came from. But so initially a marine biologist, I worked for 6 years with koalas, climbing up in trees and doing work on them. And then, basically ended up in film and later in education. So that is me in a nutshell, under 3 minutes.
Yeah, well done. What a fascinating life you've led. Well done. All right, so that, I mean, you answered
Yeah.
a little bit already, but I'm going to ask again. So, we're talking a little bit today on the topic of edu-fiction. Can you explain to
Mhm.
me what you feel edu-fiction is, and then as an author, why you decided to get into this genre?
Yeah, I think edufiction, what we're experiencing in this day and age is that attention has been captured.
Mm.
And so to be able to, as an educator, capture attention so that kids are really becoming interested. And when a kid is interested in something, their whole brain biology becomes activated. It becomes a sponge. But you've got to deliver something that is exciting to them. For me, storytelling, adventure storytelling, can do that. But you have to use all sorts of techniques that writers use to be able to grab their attention, through hooks and to, getting questions in their mind developed through narratives and the like, so that they really start to identify with the characters. And that's the key, you see, because there's so many things in the area that I'm working with technology where there are too many rules. People say, don't do this, don't do that, or this is dangerous, that is dangerous. And doesn't it doesn't settle in kids' minds. They are adventurous. They want to explore. They are curious. And so if you give it in a story, you still feed that curiosity, but they learn at the same time. They don't even realize it. And that's what the magic of edufiction is. And I've really expanded on that, using lots and lots of different types of books.
And you certainly have. In saying that,
Yeah.
let's dive into one. Let's dive into the web trap with Bindi and Beam. Can you tell me just a little bit about the characters, what the web trap is, what it covers, and what age group this particular one is probably best for?
Absolutely. The Web Trap is the first book in the Bindi and Beam series. And it's a book that is quite easy to read. I mean, it's probably one of the easier books to enter into. It really is about it's like a fairy tale, but it's gone wrong. The princess is not this wonderful person. but actually is quite nasty. What happened was that this girl, a 13-year-old girl, got a birthday present, and it's a VR head device, and she enters that world and comes across a handsome violinist and falls in love, and follows them into that virtual world. And it's basically a metaphor of being drawn into the digital world. She is, and in that digital world, she becomes what she would love to be in the real world. And she becomes a princess, but she realized once she's in that world that she's actually quite lonely. Her friends are following her into that fantasy world and try to pull her out, and there is a bit of tension trying to get her back into the real world. But eventually, that it gets accomplished. Now, this is a whole story that kids can identify with, and then it slowly filters down in them from, hey, maybe I understand something about this whole technology and how exciting it is, and but at the same time I'm becoming quite dissociative with my friends and family, and so this particular story plays with those concepts.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Sounds good. Or what was the age bracket that you felt that one was probably best for?
Yeah, it's the whole Bindi and Beam series starts from 9 plus.
Okay.
So and it's great. I love it when parents get involved as well and read together, or because it becomes such a wonderful way of having a conversation about these things using the main characters rather than the individual child as a way to explain things.
Yeah, love that. And I can already feel, your passion coming through for children learning through story. Can you share with
Oh,
me
yeah.
just a little bit about how that came to be? I'm going to assume it stemmed from your teaching years, but I just
Yes.
hear a little bit more about how that came to be for you.
Look, I studied to become a scientist, and scientists get it all wrong. They write papers where they explain lots and lots of detail, boring stuff, and then right at the end they give the conclusion of what they found.
Yeah.
When you're a writer, you do the opposite. You provide the juicy bits first and really pull in your readers. And so for me, that is the technique that really excites me. How I came to be that, I learned that through my filmmaking experience. The film director, who was a really good friend of mine, constantly said to me, it's got to be visual. You've got to be able to point a camera at it. And so I've relearned not to write as a scientist, but to write as an artist.
Mm.
And an artist really feels what the reader experiences, and that's the key. You're constantly with that in mind. And I love that as a process. It's fantastic. When I'm writing, I'm actually very, very close to my reader, and almost hear that person speak back to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And now it sounds like all scientists have to go and do art and writing degrees now. No, I love
Yeah.
that. Love that. So one of the things I have seen that you have produced is what you call read-aloud kits. Can you explain to me what they actually are?
Okay, I realize that what I've created with the learning system is actually quite a volume of work. Now it suits a homeschool environment because people do have time and can stretch it over longer periods. But as an entry point, or just to have a good taster, I've created these read aloud programs or kits that just give a sense of what this learning process is all about. So I picked a number of key chapters from a story, and then really gave a kind of a multi-sensory presentation of that, so that the kid closes their eyes and listens to the story, and then the parent or the caretaker, whoever, then asks, when you close your eyes, what do you see, what do you hear, what do you feel? And so it becomes a real deep sensory experience, this reading. And then there's questions attached to that particular chapter to dive deeper. And it's reading aloud stories. It's about 6 or 7 chapters that form the total kit.
Yeah. Well
So
done.
it's an entry point, really.
Yes. A great entry point. I like that. Yes. Well
Yeah.
done. Right, let's
And
spend a couple of minutes on Brain rot. I love the cover of this one. So, brain
Yeah.
rot. What's the topic again? Take us inside a little bit and let's explore this particular one.
Many books that I write take a long time to write, but Brain Rot I wrote in 3 months. It was unbelievable. It just flew onto the page. What happened was I came across this post where it said that an encyclopedia Britannica that had as their yearly word in 2024 was this word called brain rot. And the moment I heard that word, that book just was in my head and it just had to come out. It's all about persuasive technology. It's incredibly important in this day because everywhere around the world, Australia leading that, is these social media bans. They're being slapped onto these under 16-year-old kids, but there's no real explanation of why. And that to me is such a silly approach. I mean, you've got to give the kids understanding, let them be part of the whole process. Because as we see in Australia now and elsewhere where this is introduced, kids circumvent it. They're smart. It's about 70% of kids are circumventing the social media bans through all sorts of ways. And big tech is not being very vigilant about the way they circumvent it.
Yeah.
So brain rot is a story that will give the kid understanding why there's a social media ban. Why is social media designed to be addictive? What is the business model that made that happen? See, technology itself is not nasty. It's just that we've created a form of it that is very commercialized, and so the shareholders behind it want to see their return. Now, that is not to the benefit of the user at times. And brain rot will really explain in a fun way, in a way that kids can understand that they are being taken for a ride when they're in social media, when they're scrolling, when they're being their attention being captivated in such through the colors, through the little beeps, the little pings, and everything like that just conditions them to be constantly vigilant on what's happening on their platform.
Mm. I love 3 months. I mean, I've never written anything like that in my life, but that sounds like an amazing feat to just channel through.
I'm working on a book at the moment that will come out this year. It's called Cyber Whispers, and that started in 2018,
Oh, wow.
and it's still being polished. And interesting enough, some of it is dated that I had to rewrite because when I wrote it, it was all about how to use Google search in an effective way. Well, that's gone by the wayside. We've got
Yes,
ChatGPT.
that's
So
right. That's right. All right,
that's all exciting.
so one of the other resources that I notice you have are 5-day mini units. So can you explain the difference between those and the read aloud kits and what they actually entail?
Yeah, okay, that's really good question. I think the 5-day mini units is just a step up from the read aloud kits. It gives you a very structured, ready to use program where all the worksheets and everything is all ready to go to experience it in a little bit more depth. It's like the precursor to the full learning system.
Right.
And the kid will, for 5 days, will really immerse themselves in a particular topic of choosing. There's different themes. And then by the end of it, they all feel really accomplished and a real understanding of that particular topic. It be either cyberbullying or, like we say, persuasive technology or any of the major issues that are age relevant to them. And by the end of it, they're getting this beautiful certificate, this award,
Right.
which gives a kind of sense of completion and a way of saying, hey, yes, I've really mastered something.
Great. Okay. Does it have to be completed over a 5-day period, or it's just, I guess, the parent could work within their own parameters and yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a 5-day program. It can be stretched over a month
Yeah.
or what have you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not. I mean, all my work is extremely flexible. I mean, I realized that there's not one size fits all. I mean, even the learning system itself, I mean, the first page on the learning system is a theme table, and you just pick a theme, and then you home in on that chapter. And then, we'll probably go into that detail later on. But all of my platforms are like that. They're totally based on flexibility.
Yeah.
Because what is the difference between a school and a homeschool? In a homeschool, you're flexible. You can adapt to where the learner is in that moment. That's the wonderful thing. Um, I myself have homeschooled, and as you know, I had a homeschool business for remote students, and learned how each day is different for a learner. You can't have and our institutions, they had the orientation of developing en masse young kids, but it went at the expense of teaching to the middle, and the ones that were slower learners didn't benefit very well, and the ones who were super smart didn't benefit from it. So thank goodness homeschooling is growing, and it's the old apprenticeship model. In the olden days, before the Second World War, we would have an uncle or a father or a friend of the family who would teach you your craft. And it would be very personal, one-on-one basis. And you could see the end result because the person who taught you had the craft mastered. And that was inspiring. And homeschooling is like that. It's a very much an intimate one-on-one responsive of the learning process. That's why I like it so much. I think it has so much potential.
Yeah, it most definitely is. That's exactly. And in fact, the having parameters but flexibility within those parameters is, I think, one of the best parts about homeschooling. So I love that you've made a really conscious choice in your resources to carry that
Yeah.
through everything. Cyber secrets. Let's explore this one for a couple of minutes. I haven't had a chance to look at this one yet, so I'm excited to hear from you exactly what it covers and the age bracket again that we're looking at for this particular one.
Cyber Secrets is for the 12 plus. It's a much more in-depth story. I captured all the 9 elements of digital citizenship in that. The 9 elements were created by an American academic called Dr. Mike Ripley, and I I realized his 9 elements were quite dry in a delivery because as an academic, that's what you do. But so I based an adventure story around it, but it's pretty dense story because there's a lot to cover in that, nine elements, and I've in fact added a 10th on it, which is the future. But it's a great story. Again, it's an adventure, and what I like about Cyber Secrets, I started that in 2016, and no, in 2015, and presented that in 2016 at the Twitter headquarters in San Francisco at a digital citizen conference. And it has still been polished since then. Every time and that's the wonderful thing when you're a writer, as I am independent, I can still polish my work and make it more up to date and the likes. Cyber Secrets has had that evolution. It's a book that once you've read the whole thing, it not only gives you a complete understanding of digital citizenship, and there's a lot of character development in that as well, but also it is a book that inspires to become an activist within the online circumstance. So, what happens in the plot is that these school kids realize that there's a school in Fiji, and I spent a lot of time in Fiji, so I knew this particular school was without connection with the internet. And so they fundraise to create a satellite dish at that school. And that way they have connection with the students there, and together they are, learning about digital citizenship. And so you get these two different cultures that have different interpretations of that particular thing. And you know what I like about it is that it empowers kids to say, yeah, we're not young enough. We can do these things. We can fundraise and do projects that we like. There's nothing to stop us. So it promotes that as well, which I like very much about that particular book.
Well done. That's great. You've covered such a wide spectrum for encompassing under digital literacy. So, and sounds like
Yeah.
you've got more coming. So, love hearing that. You mentioned before that you have the read aloud kits, the 5-day mini units, and then what you call the complete learning system. Is that what I'm holding
Yes.
here in my hand? The complete learning system?
Yes. That's it. That's it. And then there is stuff still online as well that can be downloaded, like the illustrations that are in the book itself in the chapters,
Yeah.
so that they can project it or print it, or they're black and white, so they can be colored in, or there's all sorts of ways you can use them. But that's there, and then there's also the full for every activity in that learning system. There are assessment rubrics. So that if you want to use rubrics, if you want to assess how deeply the learning has gone, you can use those. But yeah, the learning systems really is the complete program that's based on a particular theme. It may be cyberbullying, or it may be like in the case of the web trap, the tech obsessiveness, or the third book in the Bindi and Beam series, which is about gaming. It's called The Magic Garden.
Mhm.
And then you learn all about what is the dynamics of gaming, that particular story ends in being encouraging kids to think how can they improve games, to make them healthy, and even create prompts that encouraged to take a few stretches, or have something, glass of water to drink, or something, eat an apple. Why not? Why is that not in those games? I mean, crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's it. But the full learning system is incredibly comprehensive, can be stretched, and that's why homeschools are so good for it. They can stretch it over a year. I mean, if they wanted to, they can do a very concentrated thing, or stretch it out over a long period of time. Each chapter is a learning experience in itself. It has two activities attached to it. One of them is zero tech, so very much the Waldorf kind of approach, where technology is, you can learn about technology, but you don't necessarily have to use it. Or the other activity of each chapter is tech supported, where there is a digital device being used in one way or another. But all of them are extremely creative and exciting projects. And before the chapter can be read either together or in part, or separately, and then discussed. And there's always a couple of questions that are poignant for that specific chapter. Now, to home in on a particular theme throughout that book, or any of the books, is this theme table. It gives the theme of that particular chapter, and also gives a quick summary of the chapter. So you don't actually need to read the book. You can read the summary, and there's also a synopsis of the entire story. So you know the context of what the main characters experience in this particular story. You're getting the theme of a particular chapter that you may want to teach, and you get the questions and the activities, plus the assessment rubric. And then also what I've included, because that's what I've learned when I was in a teaching environment, is to cater for all these different learning modalities. It'd be people that their English is not that good, or it may be ADHD, or kids that are particularly smart. They want to do something more than what is just being dished out. All of that is in there.
I actually like the hypnosis component because whilst I understand that you would assume that the parent and child is reading this together, for a lot of parents, they'll give their child the book and off you go and read
Yeah.
it. So the parent may not actually read the complete book, but at least they've got the synopsis and they're good to go. I love that. Love that you've included that. I don't think I've seen that included in other novel studies. That's Genius.
I
Love
don't, I don't know about you, but when I was studying, I did my year 11 and 12 at Rentwick College. Um, and I had to read quite a few books. But you go to the bookshop and you got these summary books.
it.
Oh, weren't they wonderful? You didn't have to read the whole thing. You just got the essence.
Yes.
Now this is still down to a page or a page and a half.
Yep. Excellent. Is there anything that we haven't covered so far that you think is important for homeschool parents to know?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important is I am my website was a typical website for authors. You know, it would introduce me as a writer and all the wonderful books I've written, etc. I'm turning that completely around and cater for homeschooling and for parents. So when you get in there, you immediately get presented all the books, but the themes of the books and the thing that you want to teach, and you home in on that, and then you're getting these choices of either you go to read aloud or you go to this 5 day um, is it, course, or you go to the full learning system. It gives you the immediate with the explanation, so you know what you're in for. So I'm much more now thinking about the audience rather than presenting me as an author. You know.
Yep.
That is in there too, but not on the forefront. So my website is going to become incredibly user friendly, and I've got a blog on there that is always loaded with freebies that are really useful for homeschoolers and parents and teachers. And it's also a dialogue that really dives in to what I'm doing as a edu-fictional writer, covering topics that people may have heard of or don't quite understand. They'll get really get grips to it. So there's that. So my website is really quite a important center to gain either the resources or the understanding. At the moment, I'm creating all these pages and pages of frequently asked questions, but rather than having this long string of answers, they're categorized in different groupings. So you'd have just cyberbullying, about 10 questions that people may want to know about it, or persuasive technology, bang, 10 questions on that and the answers. AI literacy, bang. So great resource that homeschoolers may just want to grab a few little things and then run with it.
Excellent. Great. That's fabulous. Sounds like it's going to become one all-encompassing resource. So that's
Yeah, and that's why I find it so important to then connect with you, because you are that as well in a different format that reaches out,
yes.
and I'm the resource that people can come to.
Yep.
So it
Perfect.
works beautifully.
Yeah.
Works absolutely
Great.
beautifully.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing all that with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.